Does NLP work? Is this something you should be studying? Are these techniques tried and true? Hey, we're going to talk about those. We're going to talk about fear. We're going to talk about some things that'll make a huge difference in your ability to persuade, motivate, and influence. Let's do it.
Maximize your influence. Kurt Mortensen is the author of Persuasion IQ, Laws of Charisma, and the best-selling book, Maximum Influence.
Thanks for being here. Kurt Mortensen here, podcast 541. As your year is starting to wind down, keep going after those goals. Keep working on your personal development. Tell your family, friends, and enemies about the podcast. And just keep making it happen. And since it is the end of the year, I've got to start off with the persuasion blunder. Good old Santa Claus. I was watching this family. They had some young sons, and they were going to go see Santa because that's what you do at this time of year. But you know, for most kids, Santa's kind of scary, especially to a 3-year-old. And they were going to force this 3-year-old to sit on this lap with this stranger. And we're going to talk about emotions today, especially fear. And even if you don't understand the emotion, you have to validate the emotion. You shouldn't feel that way. They're like, I do. You shouldn't be depressed. I am. You shouldn't be scared. But I am, and that could be a challenge, which really can cement some of these emotions and have this fear of Santa Claus for a long time. I know I had a daughter that huge fear of the Easter Bunny. And who wouldn't at 3, 4, 5-year-olds see a 6-foot bunny handing out eggs? Doesn't seem quite right, but we just say, hey, it's nice, let's go. You shouldn't feel that way. And that's one of the worst things you can do. Even if you don't get it, you don't understand it, it's there, it's an emotion, they're feeling it. You can work through that. We'll talk about some of those techniques today. And it didn't end well as they forced this young child to sit on Santa's lap. Yeah, good luck getting it next year. It'll probably be worse. And that kind of got me thinking as I was thinking about that, my daughter with the large 6-foot bunny, and wanted nothing to do with that, is clowns. Fear of clowns. We hear this fear of clowns. If you want to know the word, it's coulrophobia, the fear of clowns. Here's another person that's supposed to be nice. You're at a circus, you see this clown. It's pretty freaky with the weird color hair, the makeup, the weird facial expressions. Get this. 5% suffer a severe phobia. But according to AI, they said that recent studies suggest that around 53.5% of people experience some degree of fear of clowns. 53%. That's half the population. Same type of thing, probably some experience growing up with a clown, with Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, whatever it is in your country. We've got to be careful on how we deal with these things, because they can get cemented, they can get anchored, and it can cause challenges down the road. So we'll talk about some solutions to that today. And with that, let's dive into the geeky scholarly article. So Texas A&M and Dr. Stephen Marin, and this is in the Journal of Nature Communications, identified a new brain region. I mean, we're learning so much about the brain now, but this brain region that suppresses fear. That's huge with people that can't leave the house, have PTSD. They have some type of fear that they just can't address, they just don't know how to deal with. And so they identified this new area of the brain that inhibits fear. And they were getting excited. I mean, again, the applications to this is endless. So Dr. Marin's team discovered that a small brain region in the thalamus, was called the nucleus reunions, plays a role in inhibiting fears. And they did this with rats. So it says, interesting because we know that the prefrontal cortex plays an emotional regulation role. And so there's been a lot of interest in how it accomplishes that. And they're excited because if they can focus on that one area, that could be new therapies, new interventions, maybe even new pharmaceuticals. And here's what's interesting. They said that physicians who treat these psychiatric disorders, they have these medications, but it targets the whole brain, not the exact locations needed for these type of medications. So this is how they brought fear to rats. There was a tone and a mild foot shock to create a fear response. Doesn't sound very nice, but that's what they did. Then they used what they called the extinction procedure, a lot of tones for long periods of time, no shock, that would suppress the fear. So by identifying the involvement of this specific part of the brain to inhibit fear, researchers can now pursue more targeted treatments for psychiatric disorders that work better and last longer. Man, I've been saying for a long time that we've learned more about the human brain in the last 10 years and the last 100 years combined, but we still keep learning more about the brain and how we can help those, again, with extreme fear or PTSD or other things that are holding them back. This is a great new study that can help a lot of people. I still just can't understand that over half the people have some fear of clowns. That was AI. Can you believe that? Some childhood experience we're bringing into adulthood. I don't know if it's holding people back, but it does keep them from the circuses. Probably why we don't see very many circuses anymore. So let's get into our email.
Oh boy!
This is from Aaron in the United States. And Aaron, you get the gold version of influenceuniversity.com for providing a question. You also get it for content, jokes, anything that we use on the podcast. You get influenceuniversity.com. He says, Kurt, what do you think of NLP? Listeners, we all know that's Neuro-Linguistic Programming. See, I have a friend that is certified. He says that's all I need. That's all he talks about. Is he right? Should we learn it? Do we use it? What do you think? Well, Aaron, in my first book, Maximum Influence, we actually talked about NLP and talked about some of the tools and techniques that work really well. Some have not been proven with science, but a lot of your NLP practitioners swear by them. They use them. It gives people lots of confidence. So there are some good things there. With your friend, I don't want him to be a one-song wonder. I mean, there's more tools there, but the more tools you get in your persuasion, influence, motivation toolbox, the better you are. That's why I like to look at all of the tools, the techniques, the science, the studies. So my belief is get as many tools as possible, not just one little area. Some people just focus on the trust. Some people just focus on the rapport. Some people just focus on the NLP. Some people just focus on a certain sales system. I say all of the above. Let's learn, let's grow. And here's the key. Take what works for you and get rid of the rest. I would still learn it, decide if it's for you. Knowing people are using it on you can be very helpful. And let's talk about that today, the NLP, that Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Let me talk about a few that I encourage you to put in your toolbox that you should know, that science agrees works very well. And you can decide, all right, how much of this you want to put in your toolbox. And understand, too, just like a post hole digger, if you know what that is, it's a tool to dig post holes that goes straight down. You might only use it once a year, but when you need it, you need it. So some of the tools in your toolbox might be sitting there for a while, but when it closes that deal, gets you better terms in a negotiation, seals the sale, it's worth having that tool. So let's talk about a few of these. First one, mirror and matching. The science world calls it isopraxism, where you're basically mirroring them. I don't know if mimicking is the best word here, but you're matching their body language, their energy level, their speech patterns, their tone of voice, their rate of speech. Some go as far as breathing patterns. Now, when you mimic somebody, it gets above the radar. They see it, and it's going to have the opposite effect. I personally don't like the term mirror matching. As you know, I like a delayed similar response. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. I mean, if they touch their face, you touch your face at the exact same time, it's going to freak them out. But it does build rapport. Mirror matching is just accelerating what's going to happen in 10, 15, 20 minutes anyway. If you're really connecting with the person, you're just speeding it up. So you see more similar to them. It builds that rapport, that trust. They feel more comfortable, more receptive. If your prospect leans back, maybe you lean in a few seconds, lean halfway back. If they're a slow talker, you're going to slow down your speech. If they have a lot of energy, you're going to eventually match that energy. So bottom line is humans are naturally drawn to people who are similar to them. It creates this subconscious alignment. They become more receptive. Again, you're just speeding up what's going to naturally happen anyway. So this can be done over Zoom, face-to-face, even over the phone. Another one, And this is the part of the law of contrast and maximum influence, framing and reframing. It's a way you present information in a way where it influences their perception so that they don't say it's too expensive because they see the value, it's worth it. They might not be able to afford it, but they know it's a great deal. So instead of saying it costs $200, you say the investment is, putting it in a different perspective. You're reframing it. It's not of the cost, it's an investment. So the reframing part changes the way a customer perceives the situation or the objection. Instead of a problem, it's an opportunity. They say it seems expensive, and you just repackage it into an investment. How they're going to save money, time, and resources in the long run, and it's actually very inexpensive when they look at the time and money they're going to save. So it's a good way to reduce objections, put things in a different light, a different perspective, and can be a powerful technique. Then there's future pacing. I call it visualization. The way I look at this is that if your prospect, if your customer can't see themselves doing it mentally, if they can't visualize it, it's not going to happen physically. So you have to help them see it, taste it, touch it, feel it before it even happens. They have to be able to see themselves doing it before they can physically actually do it. So when they can visualize or mentally rehearse a successful outcome, that makes a big difference. Helps build confidence because they can see themselves doing it. It reduces fear and it prepares them for success. Part of future pacing too is known as a presupposition, to where you're just talking like they're already doing it. They're already involved. They're already saving money. They're already enjoying the benefits. You're talking in a way that they can see themselves doing it, but verbally, you're using words that help them feel that they're already doing it. Then here's an interesting one, embedded commands. Saw a study the other day that using embedded commands can increase sales 10%. It's just this embedded subtle suggestion or instruction within a sentence that bypasses the logic mind and goes right to the subconscious mind. So it encourages your prospect to act without feeling pressured, without triggering resistance, and can really help when they're sitting on the fence to make a decision. It can be a simple thing like, have a Pepsi day. What's the embedded command? Have a Pepsi. When you move forward today, you're going to immediately see the benefits of, right, fill in the blank. So that embedded command, when you move forward, when you get started today, can be a little subtle thing that bypasses the logical mind and goes right to the subconscious mind. And another one called anchoring, which is a full loop. When we talked about fear, right, that anchor is set. Basically, you're creating a stimulus response pattern by associating a positive emotional state with a specific physical action or trigger. Now, NLP uses the positive emotional states, but a lot of people have anchors where they had experience with a snake, a clown, Santa Claus, Easter Bunny. Those are negative anchors. NLP uses positive anchors. So basically, you could create an anchor that invokes positive emotions, gives you confidence in high-pressure situations. So if you just influence someone, you had this big sale, you're feeling great, you're feeling confident, you could press your thumb and pinky together. You could press down on your wrist. And you keep repeating this, and that creates an anchor. So when you're not feeling confident and you repeat that same action, like pressing on your wrist or putting your fingers together, those positive feelings tend to return. So anchoring involves associating a specific emotional state with a stimulus. It could be a word, a gesture. So it helps create positive associations. It triggers emotions like excitement and confidence. And it can put your prospect, your customer, in the right state of mind when you use the right anchors, the right triggers. And again, it's not just touching your fingers or squeezing your wrist. It can be a lot of different things. There's kinesthetic anchors. We've been talking about a handshake, physical touch, a pat on the back, a pressure point anywhere in your body. Some people respond better to auditory anchors, like a sound or a phrase or a tone of voice or a song that gets them into the right mood, the right state. Some use visual anchors. It could be a color, a gesture, an image, a picture on your phone, a picture of your family. And some people combine the anchors, like using different senses. Some people, it could be smell. They smell cinnamon, or they have a special nasal sticks that you can smell peppermint or different scents, that every time you're successful, you had a good presentation, you smell that links the confidence and those feelings to that smell, to that picture, to that touch. That is NLP anchoring. So if you're going to use it in a positive way, you have to identify the desired state. What is that physiological state you want to be in? Intensify that state as much as possible through visualization, memory recall, thinking about other victories, surrounding yourself with positive, great people. Then you set the anchor with that touch, that sound, that smell, whatever it is, and you keep reinforcing it, keeping reinforcing it. So if you're at a presentation and just not feeling it, that touch, that smell, that sound, that picture can bring all those feelings back. So it works well in influence. It works well in stress management. It can be used to address phobias and other traumas or other fears. And we see it all the time in sports, where you have to touch this or wear this or listen to this. Athletes know that puts them in the right state. They do the same thing every time because that reinforces that feeling, the state they need to be in to be a winner, to be successful. Remember, consistency is the key. Always reinforce it and use it. I know it sounds like woo-woo. A lot of people swear by this, especially athletes, to have a ritual, to have an anchor, to get yourself in the right state. So you can use these NLP anchors to overcome that fear. So we've been talking about using the positive side, right state, but let's say you have that fear of clowns, Santa Claus, whatever it is, public speaking. Here's some things to think about. Identify your fear. What is that fear you want to overcome? Let's use public speaking. Loliophobia, since we're learning new words today, and it's one of the top fears out there. I train a lot of corporate executives, many CEOs on how to give that charismatic, persuasive presentation, and they have fear too. And they know they need to address it. So you identify the fear. All right, public speaking. So next time you feel confident and fearless, you gave a great presentation, a standing ovation, you made the sale, you got great terms in a negotiation, anchor it. And that's the next step. Select an anchor. What are you? A visual person? Is it a picture? Is it a music? Is it a smell? Is it thumb to forefinger? A lot of people do, squeezing the wrist. I've seen that quite a bit. It could be pressing a specific knuckle. You choose. You choose. Nobody needs to know. So you select the anchor and you keep reinforcing it. Recall the positive state, reinforce it. Visualize the audience laughing, the audience saying yes, reinforce it. So that activates your anchor. You repeat, reinforce, and you keep doing it, especially in those fearful situations. Now, this is different than exposure therapy for fear. That works very well for a lot of people. Now, there's some similarities. They both address fears, and they both focus on the behavior. Now, NLP anchoring is a positive emotional state. So you want to get into a state to where the fear erodes away, your confidence is greater than the fear. That's what positive NLP anchoring does. Now, exposure therapy just involves gradually exposing the person to the fear. Maybe they're just going to go to a public speaking event. Maybe they're going to just stand in the front. Maybe they'll just take 2 minutes. Maybe they'll watch a video of somebody else doing it. If the fear was dogs, maybe they saw a video of people playing with dogs. Maybe they watched dogs through a window. Maybe they just stood in a room with dogs and eventually got more and more to where that fear would also erode away. NLP anchoring tends to be a little faster. Exposure therapy takes a little longer. NLP anchoring is more for the personal development and sports and performance enhancement. Exposure therapy is a little more in the clinical settings, anxiety disorders, phobias, and even PTSD. I'm not saying which one you should use. I'm just putting some tools out there and answering the question. There are some great tools here that you can use either in your own life or in your influence journey. So that's our podcast for today. Aaron, hopefully that answers your question. And listeners, go to the archives at maximizeyourinfluence.com for more tools with NLP. We've talked about each one of these at length before, but you can put these in your toolbox. So all the information, the studies can be found at maximizeyourinfluence.com. We're on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. This is podcast 541 for those that want the special of the week. What is the special? Since we're talking about public speaking, let's do your presentation IQ. Go to presentationiq.com or click the link. Take the 10-minute assessment on your strengths and your weaknesses. Helps with my research, helps you identify what you're doing well and what you can improve. And for doing that, I will give you the webinar on the perfect persuasive presentation. There's the PDF, there's the format, everything you need to do to create and deliver a persuasive, charismatic presentation. Or send me an email at kurt@maximizeyourinfluence.com with articles, humors, suggestions, questions, anything you need. I love hearing from you. So get more tools in the toolbox, become a better influencer, a better negotiator, work on the anchors in your personal life, create more positive anchors in the people you're trying to influence. Persuade with power.